call them Eek as well. And then you've got Jinx rockets flying in as well if the Renekton wasn't enough. Just pure AoE out from the AD carry. Like, absolute massacre there. LNG get a win out the first series of the day. And we are slightly behind schedule as we're in 2 different arenas across today. So we're now, I believe, going to go to Shenzhen, if I'm not mistaken. I might be, though. We're going into the second series is the long and short of it. And Nymeara, we need to visit what's happening in this series, because NIP versus RA, and there are a lot of playoffs in and outs at stake here. This is going to be a series that really can massively impact the table.
Which is why I have to look down at my notes, because it's very important that we get this language very, very clear. So, because of how tight things are, particularly just out of the playoffs bracket, places, I think it's 12 to 16, things get very close, where it gets down to even just game score instead of series score. So, with NIP versus Rare Atom, if NIP win at least one game, Invictus Gaming are eliminated from playoffs contention, and RNG, because of that, are in. They lock one of the final 2 remaining spots up for grabs in summer 2023. Now, beyond that, if NIP win 2-1, Anyone's Legend, Fun Plus Phoenix, and Rare Atom are also eliminated. So Rare Atom, they can't afford a series loss today. And if NIP 2-0, Ultra Prime are also going to join that list. So there's a potential 5 teams that NIP can knock out in one fell swoop if they were to 2-0. They could literally pentakill LPL teams in this series.
Which I've got to say would be quite funny. That would be a hell of a move from NIP. Because remember, it's not just about, like, a lot of the time in the LPL, when we're getting towards the end of the round robin, you see one series that matters massively in the standings. But usually the team that has to win that series isn't part of the equation. Whereas for NIP, not only will they knock 5 teams out, it's also qualifying themselves by knocking those 5 teams out. So, like, they are fully wanting that 2-0. This is not just like people passively watching a random series. This is like NIP looking these other 5 teams dead in the eyes and saying, you're going down.
NIP can't mathematically lock themselves today, but they can make their job a lot easier. Even if they were to win, technically Thunder Talk are still in contention, but they're a couple of series behind, so it's going to be a little more difficult for them to do so. Of course, they've been on a run of form with their own mid laner, Yucal, doing an incredible amount of work. So NIP, they've got eyes on the rearview mirror a little bit, but full steam ahead for this series.
We'll see if they can. As NIP with a Poppy up in the top side. Let's talk a little bit about what's actually happening. We've been diving into the standings and, you know, the grand scheme of this, but whoa, flash for flash in the bottom side. Good reactions from Photic there. Feather trying to make things happen. We've got an Ashe in the bottom lane alongside a Blitzcrank. We've got that Kai'Sa has made it through another draft. We've got Jace versus LeBlanc mid. We've got a Sejuani in the jungle alongside a Viego. And then we've got a Poppy top lane. I feel like I'm not entirely sure what's happened in the draft for us to get to this point in these compositions, but I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I kind of like the draft too, though, from Rare Atom in a lot of ways. I think if they do win this bot lane, as they currently are doing, they forced out a flash. Flash to flash works in the favor of Blitzcrank, because you have Hex Flash and the ability to walk up with your movement speed. If an Ashe arrow flies in somewhere across the map, NIP feel very, very scared, because not many people on their team can really deal with an Ashe arrow into a Blitzcrank hook, into the potential reset potential of a Viego. So Rare Atom, watch what happens if this Blitzcrank and Ashe get to control bot lane and move out onto the map. On the other side, NIP, they want to stop that from happening, of course. It's been hard for them, a lot of hooks landing. Zhuo just tanking them up for the Kai'Sa with no ability to escape if that hook were to land.
Yep, rightly done by Zhuo. As a ward going to be dropped by Leyan. Goes for an early little invade to get some information. Spots out that Shadow is definitely up on that top side of the map, so we'll just be trading those crabs. Potential for a play down in the bottom side. There's always potential for a play when you've got a Blitzcrank as your support. And it looks like Leyan is toying with the idea.
Potential. Also worth noting as well, Mole is starting in this series over Strive in the mid lane, which has been a bit back and forth from a Rare Atom in summer. I've personally felt like Strive has been the better mid laner between the two, which is, I suppose, not what everyone would have expected, because Mole, of course, historically has had some very strong splits, but Strive is, of course, probably going to be waiting backstage. Potential of him being subbed in later into the series as we get later into it. We'll see, of course, what the options are there, but still, in this game, Mole on the LeBlanc static shiv build has plenty of ability to show off. This mid laner has one of the most powerful picks on the patch.
Mole playing there. Oh, hang on. Feather ignited. He'll walk away, though. He'll be fine on this one, as Photic's just going to crash the wave. Mole did play their series against WE as well, which, like, whether or not you think Mole or Strive are the better player, I do prefer it when teams, like, try and commit a little bit harder. Rather, like, I personally, big pet peeve of mine when teams just, like, flip-flop consistently between players, and a player doesn't get more than one series to try and prove themselves. So, especially this late in the season, I like that if they've decided Mole's good for one series against WE, then I like the extension of logic to further series, at least in theory. You know, it does depend on form. Shadow moving into the mid lane here. There's Angel clearing him out of the wave, trying to look juicy. Mole hits the level 6. Does mean he's quite hard to take down on that LeBlanc. And Shadow going to be spotted out on a ward, cleared out by Zhuo. They're going to have to back away.
Mole's hit level 6, has Mimic available to him, and gives up your playmaking options a bit of an extra kick. So, currently bot lane, AD carries left alone as everyone's roaming back down towards them. We haven't hit level 6 yet. Again, really watch what happens in regards to drowning out bot side vision into allowing Assum to walk into river and throwing a arrow out of Fog of War towards someone like Angel, who doesn't really have the best ability to survive an Ash arrow. No mobility, really, in terms of escapes, and certainly no cleanse taken on mid lane. It's been a while since other combat summoners have been really taken outside of spellbooks onto your mid laners. And it's quickly getting to the point where NIP needs to be very, very careful about vision control, slipping away from them against Rarat in this composition.
Yeah, it feels like, you know, the LeBlanc Viego Blitzcrank. If you don't know where they are and you've got to face check in, like, at least you have a Poppy and a Sejuani that are a little more comfortable face checking in. But even them, like, with an Ashe there as well, they might just go down. Viego's very good at shredding tanks too. You don't really want to fall too far behind if you can help it. I mean, nobody wants to fall too far behind. I feel like it's a redundant statement. But, you know, in that context, can't afford to lose control of the Rift. We'll see how that's going to pan out, though. Looking towards Angel on the Jace as well. I feel like Angel's had a decent split for himself. I think he's done better in summer than he did during spring. And we'll see. I feel like this NIP roster has been almost experimental in a way, where we've got a lot of players that are kind of looking for redemption. We've got a lot of players that are kind of looking to prove themselves to some extent. And it would be nice if that story ends in playoffs, if that story ends with NIP kind of coming to life and showing us that this is a roster that you do have to respect.
I completely agree. Angel has had a great split, all things considered. NIP were not a team heading into summer with great expectations, particularly with the players which they picked up. It felt like a little bit like a band of misfits. Shadow not having necessarily the greatest performance this spring in the games which he did play back and forth there. And Angel, of course, had an awkward situation in RNG where someone has to replace Xiaoxu. And that's a very difficult thing to do as one of the greatest players of all time. It's certainly one of the greatest LPL players of all time. Angel, it feels like, though, on NIP has found a place to be his own player and play his own game as opposed to play for another historic org. He might get involved here towards this topside fight.
Xiaoxu has a bit of sustain, but he's CC'd up. He doesn't get to use his sustain. Take it out before the play could even happen. And Invincible, good little setup there alongside Shadow. Starts off strong with first blood, but they're not going to commit to the Herald for now.
Wow, that's a big moment for NIP, though, because first dominance of the game, particularly in topside fights around Herald, Renekton is one of the best champions of fighting around that area of the map. Doesn't get the healing off, though, from the Empowered Q. Great CC combo from Shadow, and with all that said and done, Raratem just going to move back towards mid lane.
Yeah, all going to try and get a combo down, actually using double chains there, setting up for Blitzcrank hooks. I like that from Mole. Forces the flash out from Angel. Good bit of team play out from RA, though. Clearly, they've played this combo in scrims.
Feel very practiced on it. Leyan as well, very strong on this Viego as one of his comfort picks. Zhuo is going to get hit.
And this is what you were talking about, right? If you lose control of vision. I mean, RA have been playing around that like top of mid-river brush for the entire last couple of minutes. And it finally pays off with a hook over the wall.
Does the Herald, I wonder if that will be the prize. Shadow is towards topside, doesn't have ult though.
They're just going to commit onto Xiaoxu here. No, Invincible backing away. As soon as Feather showed up in the play as well. I think NIP realizing that's not a fight that they want. Feather has been up on this top side of the map for so long. Zhuo has respawned and run back to the top side of the map again. Feels like both teams really not willing to let the other have any kind of presence on this Herald.
I think that makes sense, right? I think if you get to have a Herald push in and take a tower early from Rare Atom, the vision control problem that NIP would face would get that much worse. So, as you can see, what's already starting to get contested on top side of the map. Rare Atom aren't there to defend the vision this time, though, and despite the fact that they've landed a couple of hooks and forced a couple of summoners, they haven't taken the Herald, and they haven't forced a big explosive play just yet. NIP, they get back out of the map, they're grouped up, Shadow is there to respond to a player on top side, and things return to a bit of an even status quo. Watch out for that Ashe ult, though. He's back off cooldown.
Certainly is. And Photic, while he can fly a reasonable way across the map, on the first level of the ultimate Kai'Sa, it really is only like sort of half a screen. It's later on in the game that gets really long ranged. So don't expect Photic to be a part of any of these plays for the time being. Like you say, Assum can from the other side of the map, but it doesn't look like RA are interested in trying to contest the Herald for now. That will just go into the pocket of Shadow. Feather wanted to make a play on the opposite side, but Photic, full respect for what the Blitzcrank is bringing. In the meantime, Mole managed to get a play in the mid lane too.
Right in the mid lane, static shift built up for the LeBlanc, but also built up for the Kai'Sa. That will change the bot lane matchup a little bit, especially if it's in a 1v1 between the Kai'Sa and the Ashe. It means that Ashe can't shove and roam necessarily, or kind of have a momentary 2v1 or 2v2. While trying to do something tricksy and catch Angel out on the wave, not able to do so. But yeah, Photic without Shiv will give a bit of a reprieve from NIP to fight with at least one pushing lane.
I feel like Angel has been so aware of what Feather and Mole are trying to do across the course of this game so far. Shadow happy to be the front line here, but the rest of the team doesn't have much follow-up for him. And realizing that the mid laner was coming over, they back away here. Shadow with the dash. Photic next target. Flash available for him. Cleanse comes out as well. This is a 3v4, but NIP are winning it anyway.
I have no idea how they won that fight, especially with Photic getting absolutely nailed by the big Ashe ult coming through from Assum. Isn't enough, though. NIP, they get away with what feels like murder, and that's an important kill. It's a kill over to the Kai'Sa. The AP Shiv Kai'Sa with extra gold, certainly something that Rare Atom need to be afraid of.
It certainly is. Invincible in the meantime. It's like, oh, everyone's at the bottom side. Well, I'm Poppy. I can clean waves up pretty damn quick. They'll have to get on out of there. The reset will come through. Let's take another look at what actually happened here, because Shadow happy to tank up to start with, but it felt like this was doomed.
It did, because, you know, you're half HP. You've got chains landing. It feels like the chain into a hook is very, very dangerous. Of course, the hook was just used before this, but that is a great Sejuani. That is top draw ultimate out of Shadow. That is what single-handedly turns that play around, locks someone in place long enough for them to get assassinated by the Kai'Sa.
Photic doesn't even have to flash, by the way. Used his ult to reposition there, the shield, saving his life. And manages to maintain one. The fact that you don't even get both sums out of the AD carry there for RA after the chain landing from Mole, that is tough. That is really tough. Remember, there's a lot of LPL teams watching this, praying that RA have the series of their lives to stop NIP shutting everyone out of playoffs. Right between the goalposts there for Assum. If this was rugby, that would have been a magnificent conversion. Regrettably, this is not rugby. Just goes straight between. That's going to be 2 plates taken in the mid lane. It'll lead to a Drake as well for NIP, and it feels like they are in complete control.
Yeah, Colin Wilkinson, the way he did that, like a drop goal. Sadly, this is not for Worlds or a World Championship. Bit off that one, but still has an extra cooldown coming through a little bit for him to drop back into the pocket and try it again. Rare Atom, they have managed to secure, again, decent vision control, but the execution on these plays is what's really coming through now. It felt like they had the right window. NIP have answered them accordingly, though.
Shadow looking at Feather and going, look, you can't be the threat that hooks us in if I already have jumped onto you. The hook doesn't do a whole lot when I'm already in melee range.
Oh, wow, you have transported me 5 units.
Oh, sneaking forwards. Does have to be a little careful. There's a lot of players here for NIP, but I feel like all game now, from both sides, this has been a bit tentative, hasn't it? Where, like, you know, with the Herald, neither team wanted to step up and very confidently start it until, like, absolutely sure that the other team wasn't going to contest. NIP did manage to pull that off in the end, but again here, like, Dragon has been a potential option for a while now, but Neither team confident enough to actually start it off.
I think the reason why this is getting a bit more tentative is because NIP have shown that they understand what Rare Atom's composition does, which is namely get the first pick and reset. So they are not going to give that easily over to Rare Atom, and of course now with a couple of times NIP have managed to hold Rare Atom's pick combo to account and get themselves some one fights already. So they're grouping up, they're using the Sejuani as a bit of a sponge for the big skill shots coming through, because they will survive long enough and have Merc Treads and enough tenacity to make sure that the play can get disengaged long enough for things to be put into question. Good trade from Invincible on top side.
Oh, that is the real one. Invincible called it right there. And then I think second-guessed himself, thinking that was the clone. Oh, will survive the potential all-in from Invincible. Has a support with him as well, but tell you who doesn't have any supports with him. It's Xiaoxu. Oh, the sustain is good, though. And I don't think they can re-dive onto this one. Xiaoxu just about surviving. And that heal coming out from the Gordrinker at the last possible second.
Gordrinker, Dominus HP, and Empowered Q. It's more than enough to keep Xiaoxu alive. So the cross map, I think it's fine from NIP. At the end of the day, you're not going to be using those ultimates immediately after that play. They're going to be returning to the scene of the crime, though. Another slow crash from Angel. He didn't kill that wave as quickly as he possibly could do. Xiaoxu trying to clear out the wave.
Hulk going to come on through. The damage is there, but Xiaoxu flashes away this time. If that ult hits from Assum, that is a guaranteed kill onto Angel. They're lucky to get away with their lives there. NIP back away once again. Xiaoxu, no flash now.
Does feel like one of the trials you have to go through as a top laner is learn how to deal with a weak side dive. Xiaoxu does it not once, but twice. It means that NIP can't walk away with an easy side lane turret kill. That would have been great for them to grab. It would have opened up the map in their own favor. You can see that they're starting to contest vision into the enemy jungle, especially towards bot side. And now Angel has caught out himself.
All right, trying to say anything you can do, we can do better, but Invincible says, no, you can't, because I've got TP up, and starts to pressure them himself instead. And now, Shadow moving into the mid lane. This is Assum on his own. That ain't no top laner. They don't survive the dives quite as well. Assum backs off, though, and it will be the tier 1 threatened in the mid lane. Photic now could be the one in trouble, as the roles are reversed again. Feather charges into that mid lane alongside Leyan. They're trying to chase these players down. I don't quite think they'll find their target. As Shadow now flips it around onto its head once again, and Leyan is forced to ult out.
Cat and mouse, but who's the hunter and prey? It's kind of difficult to tell. Both of these teams are trying to take uneven numbered fights. I don't think Rare Atom want to take a straight up 3v3, 4v4. I feel like they lose that, especially with Shadow's ult coming back up now. Second Herald coming up. These are big moments, these Heralds, because it forces everyone to group around that objective. Rare Atom are, however, going to split the map. They're not going to contest it. NIP, they've already taken the mid lane out of turret. I think considering how much threat there was of an early game snowball from Rare Atom, NIP have done a very admirable job of withstanding the first kind of pick attempts from their opponents. They have a Herald to open up the map even more. That would be a big victory for them to start. Again, constraining the amount of map that Rare Atom can play on.
Xiaoxu 2v1 there with Feather and Assum just off of the screen. And it feels like RA are constantly looking. Arrow are going to go straight between once again. Shadow answers it with his own Freljordian freeze just completely whiffing. And it means both teams back away.
This is just both fullbacks kicking the ball to each other at this point. What the heck's happening, folks? Play for territory, maybe. They tried to play for that top lane tower. Doesn't quite work out for NIP. They keep themselves the Herald in inventory. It's not going to be used for a power play just then. Very interested to see what Shadow does with it now. Maybe it can be used to break down the bot lane out of turret and get as much value out of it as possible. If you get to take the top lane out of turret without the Herald, of course, that's a bit of a free play for NIP. As this happens, though, we're getting up towards second items. Photic is almost at ARAM, Poke, Kai'Sa. Horrific nature, because he's about to get the W upgrade as soon as he finishes second item from Nash's Tooth. Of course, has 100 AP on the item, rather, which will give you that that full upgrade in one, and indeed has hit that second item. Adds in another scouting tool for one. Of course, the W being good for kind of checking into Fog of War, but then also just the huge poke potential. We've all seen it. We all hate it. It's online, folks.
I just want to mention as well, when you look at Angel in terms of his build right now, we were talking about the lethality Varus in the previous game and the fact that he was only hitting 2 items at like the 22-minute mark. Like, Angel's in a similar spot with similar items. Like, 22 minutes is not that crazy late to have 2 items. It was just how one-sided the previous game was. Further down, it's a bad little start for RA with Drake spawning onto the map. This would be the second Drake for NIP, and they've got the Herald to find priority mid as well. Leyan has to be careful.
Disaster for Assum. You don't have the core of your pick composition. Your Ash ult is down, the Blitzcrank is dead. How do you play out without that threat? You're going to lose one mid turret. Are you going to lose a second who's getting out skirmished on the bot side as well? NIP, big power play.
Leyan's in trouble here. One big shock blast could finish the job, but acceleration gate was on cooldown. Herald's going to get an inhib in the mid lane. Mole is still just split pushing on the top side of the map. The TP is going to come out, though, from, I assume, Angel. No, Invincible moves up there to answer the push. So, tier 2 can't be traded. And while NIP, they don't get the Drake that we originally thought they were going to try and get, they take a mid inhib instead?
That is disgustingly valuable push for NIP. Yeah, you might end up losing what...
He got it. He actually got it. We have seen some Giga Chad Poppy today. Big time. In both series now with Invincible. Just strolling in and taking the blue buff.
Now, the not going for the dragon might mean it is given over to rare Assum NIP. They still have a good chance at taking this, but it won't be a free dragon. But still, getting the super minions in mid is so annoying. Shadow's going to walk up, and they can't afford to hit him with the hook. He just stands there bulwark.
Oh, Ash Arrow finally does hit, but it's onto the Rakan, so he can back away once again. The super minions make it hard to contest with the Shiv in the same way that you can before those supers are onto the map. Dragon started by RA. 5 strong for both teams here as Photic looks for the backline. But look at the poke coming out from NIP here. The resets on the WR in. Invincible wide on his ultimate, but not wide on his charge. Leyan, the next target, Xiaoxu, trying to tank on the front line, but Invincible goes down, and maybe RA have turned it back around. The poke flies back and forth. The Shadow still in smite range here, and is true with the true damage. Mole dashing forwards as we continue to go back and forth in the longest fight I've ever seen. A TP now as Photic keeps alive from Leyan. The movement is clean from Photic, but he's in a 1v2 now. As Assum trying to chase him alongside Mole. The chains won't land as Angel comes in from behind. Mole trying to finish the job and will do so. Looking for a shock blast, but Angel can't get in range.
Well, there's your goal from Rare Adam, and that's the bite back from the play which NIP made to push down that mid inhib. They didn't take the dragon for free. Rare Adam snap up that opportunity and get themselves a good amount of gold back. How does this start, though? It starts with some good damage already being present onto Angel and Zhuo. Blitzcrank goes down, but how much do you use for it? Shadow's used the mobility to go in. He's used the ultimate too, and Xiaoxu starts to get that rage going upwards, and then the reset comes in. You cannot have really understate how much value that has, and the ability to have Viego do Viego things. We've forgotten about it a little bit. It's not as meta, but Leyan is very comfortable on it and has the ability to get a lot of value after that point.
And then things get quite messy. At least the dragon was taken. Photic really, really clean ult there to outplay Leyan, but Mole there to finish the job. Double kill for Assum as well. So even though they don't get the Drake, like, the gold is going to the right players as well. Mole and Assum both picking up influxes of gold. You can see the Infinity Edge now finished for Assum, as well as that Night Harvester there for Mole. He's on 5 stacks from the Dark Seal too.
It's nasty. So Mole potential to snowball, Assum potential to snowball as well. NIP, they're forcing the issue though, going towards the Baron. Of course, Blitzcrank, if he's in the right area, can do a lot of damage, and Invincible doesn't have the teleport just yet. NIP, they've done a lot of hard work to outplay the pick combo this game, but it is all it takes is one slip up, and Rare Atom are back in it.
They have a pick combo of their own, although the CC doesn't land. There goes Photic, flying across the screen. Feather hooks him, but there's no support to help on the play. Xiaoxu's gone in to try and answer on the backside, but he doesn't have the damage yet. Double kill for Photic as RA sent packing on this one, and NIP can return to that Baron.
With the amount of damage onto Leyan as well, I don't think there's going to be a contest. Certainly not after that. You might have to stick around and hope for something. Giving up the Baron would be absolutely awful for Rare Atom. NIP, they couldn't make it work around the Dragon. They find themselves a pick, though, in the mid lane. Their ultimate's firing off. And this should be the real game turner for game 1.
I mean, Photic living up to the name of his role, right, was absolute marksman. Finding Leyan with multiple Void Seekers there. Assum dodging the initial CC, but the second that W lands, Photic's just in and one-shots him.
And this time, Xiaoxu is not in the right place to set up for the first kill for Leyan. Maybe resets always give you an X factor, but the damage is not all kind of nucleated onto a single target for Rare Atom. They can't finish off the play, and now with Baron buff across the board, things get very difficult. Mole's been spotted out again.
He'll be okay. Walks out with his life, the bone plating procced there, but damage won't find him. 4,000 is the gold lead, which is not that dramatic. I mean, it's pretty big. NIP certainly favored. Arrow is going to land, but there is no damage that's actually been done here. Double chains coming on through. There's a TP from Xiaoxu as well. Feels like RA really want to contest the area. I'm surprised there was a TP committed, to be honest.
If you get the arrow into a hook onto a good target, then that's great, you know. You get the ability to roll over these fights, but can't make it work. Ooh. And whenever the pick combo's on cooldown, you don't have the Ash Arrow. What can you do? What can you do at this point? No flash available, and Feather, that's coming up sometime into the future. And with the Baron buff, things are going from bad to worse for Rare Atom.
And I mean, imagine trying to survive a siege against Lethality, Jace, and AP Kai'Sa. Like, the poke is just off the charts here. Look how much that chunks for. And it's like a 3-second cooldown if you manage to find your target as well. Photic doing a lot of work on this Kai'Sa. Shadow just straight over the wall. They look for Feather and they'll find him. That's one for the AD carry already as Mole flashed on, followed up by Photic, but they couldn't quite finish the job there. And now the rest of the team happy to tank up as the poke continues to land from massive range. Leyan kicked out of the fight by Photic once again. Xiaoxu in the midst of everyone. The sustain is good, but not good enough. And a second inhib will be taken down. Still 50 seconds on the Baron. They can siege the Nexus.
They can certainly try. I think with the Ash Arrow up and the Blitzcrank spawning, it's going to be hard to finish, but they'll give it a good damn try.
Yeah, it's just going to be TPs back into the play. Health bars back to full as one Nexus tower falls. And they have so many cannons that are hammering away. Feather is gone. NIP's health bars are low. Maybe some kind of miracle can happen if Mole can get in, but the shiv isn't enough. They're abandoning the play. They're going through the Hex Gates. No, they're not. Invincible can't make it out. And Angel suddenly finds himself alone. Big opportunity for RA to punish some players here, as Angel will get jumped on, will get taken out, and will give over a shutdown.
Well, that is some gold in pocket, but you're still down a Nexus Tower 2 and a couple of inhibs. So, NIP still walk away overall victors, but not the actual winners of the game just yet. Zhuo now going to get ran out by Mole, has flash. Zhuo doesn't have him by himself. There's a chance he gets another kill here.
Yeah, we've seen Mole do more with less, and there we go. Finishes him off easily. That's flash used by Mole, but Shadow and Photic do want to punish him for this. It's getting close to walking on vision, but won't be spotted in the Drake, I think, a juicier prize, and rightly so. That'll be sole point for NIP. Man, this game, all of the games today, honestly, the pacing has been strange with the way that things have been going out. Great pick to start it off, though.
And the problem with something like the Blitzcrank is that while you are a pick champion, you're not ever tanky. Blitzcrank survives by having outrange and the ability to kill you before you think about killing him. Especially into late game, Blitzcrank can very much get one shot, as we've seen multiple times now. NIP doing well at kind of recognizing their kill threats. Of course, they don't end the game there, and make a bit of a mess of the retreat, sadly for them. Give up a couple of kills, but it is not enough to put themselves into a deficit. Shadow walking up again.
Yep, he is on that Sejuani, half HP, flashes away, and Zhuo arrives. Whoa! See you later, Leyan. You ain't getting no resets today. Xiaoxu, he's a big old croc, and that's a lot of sustain as well. Mole trying to protect his top laner here. The CC should be there for Shadow over the wall. Oh, who needs it? Who needs it? Angel just bops him. And well, Mole is desperately trying to get the damage out with this Shiv, but great little shot there by Photic. Shoots it at the pad where Mole had to jump back to. As another tower will be taken. The supers are pushing in both mid and bot. The pressure is mounting onto RA.
The best CC is death, Munchables. Turns out that NIP can deliver that one quite swiftly, and with the huge damage coming out from both Angel and Photic of mixed damage, you can't even itemize against it. There's a couple of Merc Treads which don't help you versus the 3-item, now 3.5-item Jason that mid lane. Assume does damage, he's just never in range or a position to stand still and get those autos down. And this is the problem of trying to play your pick combo into a Sejuani or another proficient tank jungler. There are Merc Treads, that's tenacity. There is a huge amount of defensive abilities, and that thumbs up shows you how Shadow is feeling. Knows that we're talking about him. Has that sixth sense. He's so hard to take down, and Rare Assum have very rarely been able to get clean picks to start their combo off.
Yep. Photic even getting a flask for the potential final play here. Over 10 CS per minute from him, from Mole, and from Assum in this one. Oh my days, that damage is insane. Photic staying back in this one as an arrow goes in, but it's Zhuo picked off to start us off here. NIP forced back, but RA struggling to actually answer with their team being knocked back. Feather again gets down and taken out. The long-range kills come in. Xiaoxu trying to find his way onto the backside, but it's Photic diving on the opposite side of the play, eradicating RA. What looked like a win for RA right there with a pick on Zhuo is quickly thwarted as NIP find their ace. A triple for Photic, and my God, what a game from NIP with this poke comp.
Photic had a hat and he put a feather in it at the end. Holy moly, that death cap did so much damage. And I love that we're starting to see some of these more like assassination Kai'Sa potential. It's something that you see quite a lot from when we saw poke Kai'Sa last year, but you can W flash or